Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And we're looking at the disciples' questions in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3 when they asked Jesus for a sign of the end of the age. Well, the huge majority of commentators say they were asking about the end of the current age. You know, I could catalog for you. Basically, all I'd have to do is pick up any commentator I've got here in my office, with the exception of a few, and they say, well, the disciples were asking about the end of the Christian age, or as they like to term it, the end of the current age. There is a reluctance, interestingly enough, as I pointed out, among commentators to say that the disciples were asking about the end of the Christian age. That seeming reluctance might stem from the fact that they realize that the Bible teaches the Christian age has no end. So how do you have the disciples asking about the end of that which has no end? I hope you watched very carefully yesterday's video on Isaiah chapter 9, 6 to 9. Very, very powerful. Okay, I asked you to do your homework on Psalms 89, 34, and following. Let me read that for you. The Lord was talking about the covenant that he had made with David, that one of his descendants after the flesh, he would raise up, give him the kingdom, he would build a house for him, and of his rule there would be no end. 2 Samuel chapter 7, 13 and following. Verse 34. My covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that is going out of my mouth. Once I have sworn by my holiness, I will not lie to David. Now watch this. His seed will endure forever, his throne as the sun before me. It shall be established forever like the moon, even like the faithful witness in the sky. Well, now I pointed out yesterday that the Hebrew word olam doesn't necessarily mean without end, but we need to look a little closer. You see, to the Hebraic mind, the most sure, the most steadfast, the most unmovable, the most, quote, eternal things were the sun and the moon and the stars. Those were steadfast. Everything else might pass away, might change. But the sun, the moon, the stars remain forever. So Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 4 said, generations come, generations go, but the earth abides forever. Now look, when the Hebrews wanted to express enduringness, is that a word? When they wanted to express the idea of lastingness, another word, then they contrasted that which was to endure with that which was to pass away. Much like Daniel chapter 2, a passage that we will get to, just like Daniel chapter 7, a passage we will get to. In those passages, that which will never end is contrasted with that which would end. So, to the Hebraic way of thinking, the way that you would express enduringness was to contrast that which would endure with that which would not endure. And so here Psalms 89 expresses for us that God's vow, God's promise to David was that he would sit one of his descendants upon the throne, and that descendant would rule. That throne, that rule, that reign, that kingdom would endure as long as the sun, the moon, and the stars. And of course, somebody might jump up and say, well, you know, but the sun, the moon, the stars will pass away. Not really. That's not what the Bible says. When the Bible talks about the destruction of heaven and earth, it's always in reference to the passing of a world government, the social structure, the leadership. Not the literal, not the visible, not the physical sun, moon, and stars. The Hebrews just didn't have a concept of that. You need to see the writings of N.T. Wright, David Nanos, others, Scott McKnight, hosts of other scholars who understand that the Hebrews never predicted, never envisioned, never thought about the end of material creation. Okay. I hope that you can see that as we conflate and harmonize Psalms 89, here is the prophecy that the throne of David, that the Messiah on the throne of David, his rule and his reign would endure as long as the sun, the moon, and the stars. When we conflate and join that with Isaiah chapter 9, 6-9, verse 7 specifically, which just emphatically says that of the increase of the government of Messiah on the throne of David would have no end. Folks, we can't get around that. It's simply undeniable. And it is absolutely astounding to me how desperate some people get to where they go into some of these texts and they try to make these texts mean and to say exactly the opposite of what they say. It's just like I suggested to you that Brock Hollett should have renamed his book, Why the Bible Does Not Mean What It Says. It is why Sam Frost's new book, entitled The Parousia, the coming of the Son of Man, the parousia of the Son of Man, ought to be renamed Why the Bible Doesn't Mean What It Says. Because these men go to the text supported by the vast array of translations, the vast array of scholarship, and they say, oh, well, no, it can't mean that after all. The Bible cannot mean what it says. And oh, by the way, there will not be a Friday video in review of Brock Hollett's. I won't have a video tomorrow. Have some really pressing business. But I will have one more video on Brock Hollett, and then I'm going to take a Friday break for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to begin my review and refutation of Sam Frost's book, The Parousia of the Son of Man. You certainly don't want to miss that. Okay, so what we have seen so far is the disciples asked about the end of the age. The only age that represented, that temple represented, was the Old Covenant age of Moses. Pardon me. The Old Covenant age of Moses looked forward to, predicted, prophesied, and foreshadowed the New Covenant age of Jesus, son of David, who would sit on his throne and administer the new covenant, and of his rule and of his reign, of the increase of his government, there will be no end. So to reiterate the point, since the reign of Christ on the throne of David has no end, since there will be no end of the increase of the government of Christ, of the kingdom of Christ, there cannot be a last day of the Christian New Covenant age. End of story. Don't forget, go to my website, order the 2-book special, good through March, rest of February, rest of March. Last days identified, into all the world, then comes the end. If you ordered them separately, they would cost you almost $35. Accommodation price, good for the rest of February, all of March 2019, $25 postpaid. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. There's a tab up at the top. It'll just march you right through it. And we appreciate very much the response that you've given to this very special offer. Okay? Well, again, won't have a video tomorrow, so you have a fantastic weekend. Lord willing, I will see you on Monday.